Hey everybody, Drew here, and we're going to do the clock spring on this 2004 to 2009 Toyota Prius. What you're going to need right off the bat is a Torx bit for the airbag, which is a T30. They usually come with a 1/4-inch drive, so I just step it up to 3/8 because I use a power tool whenever I can. I always use an extension. You will need a 19 for the nut that holds on the steering wheel. You'll need a Phillips head screwdriver. I always find it easier to have one of these picks for wiring harnesses. You will not need a steering wheel puller. That is a myth, and I'll show you how to get around that. And the first step, which is the most important because you're going to be touching the airbag, is to disconnect the battery. So I'll show you how to do that. You do not want to set off an airbag in your face when you're doing the job. So just, of course, if you have this car, you probably know how to do all of this, but just the battery, this is your positive right here. You don't have to take anything out. Just, there's a harness here for a signal wire. There's a harness, a big harness here, and now you have disabled your car completely. This is your brake controller, so that gets that completely out of the way. And then just make sure that you don't shut your hatch, because you need the car to have power to get back in there without disassembling things and crawling around. So just leave that open, or worst case, crawl through the back and plug it back in. So next thing you want to do, make sure that when you pull into wherever you're going to do this job, you're perfectly straight, because any movement you do with the steering wheel, you're going to need to be able to line that back up, and there is a small chance you might have to go up and down the road to make sure you're not off a spline. No worries on screwing up the car's computer, because the very thing that tells the car where the steering wheel is moves with it. So there's no way to cause yourself any damage there. But the first thing you're going to need to do with your pick is get in. You want to try not to damage any plastic. Get in behind this piece here, usually in the middle at the top is the sweet spot. There you go. Take that out. And then there's one, which just for this particular case, I'll turn the wheel. There's one on this side that's around the cruise control thing. Just get that off. Let's see here. It's stuck on the cruise control. There we go. And you see the part that you want to, it's that tab right there that you want to get at. So we'll turn the wheel back, because again, you want to make sure that that stays as straight as possible. I always use the top of the steering wheel if it lines up with this plastic piece perfectly. You're not going to get it off by a little bit like that or like that. It'll be substantial. So as long as it's lined up just about perfectly like when you started, you're good. Now that Torx, again, I always use a power tool when I can. That Torx is right inside here. Not sure if you can see that there, but you're just going to want to get that, loosen that, and Toyota's actually really kind to you. There's a plastic clip that holds that so it doesn't fall inside there, and as long as it's out as far as it can be, it shouldn't give you a hard time pulling out the airbag. So there's just one on the other side there. And the airbag, I always kind of lift toward the top of the car and then lay it down like this. Do not, under any circumstances, pull on any of these wires. There's a ground, and it has a tiny little tab on it. Get the ground off by pressing the tab. That comes up, and then you take your pick, again, making sure your battery is disconnected, because if something goes wrong here, this could kill you. Obviously, anything you see on this channel, you're doing at your own risk. This is for entertainment only kind of thing. My battery's disconnected. You're just going to want to get underneath there like that, and then tough with frozen hands. Gotta love Rochester. See, and then get underneath there like that. Again, underneath the yellow plastic, and then don't jam this in there. Just use the tip of your pick to just, there you go, like that. So set the airbag aside. Again, keep your wheel straight, and I always disconnect these two top ones first. This one is for your cruise control. This one is for pretty much everything else except the airbag. And get those out of the way. And then removing the steering wheel is a lot easier than you'd think. You do not need a puller. So that's a 19. Loosen it up, then put it back on. Not finger tight, but on so the majority of the threads are on there, because if you don't, you are going to break your own nose with the steering wheel. So next, get yourself kind of close to the wheel. You're going to take this and pull as hard as you can while wiggling side to side. And this one was actually really easy. It just came off. But this absolutely works. I don't own a steering wheel puller, and I've done this job probably 30 or 40 times. And before we had the car dealership, I used to sell some parts on eBay and get good money for steering wheels, and I'd go pull them at the junkyard all the time. No steering wheel puller. So now that you've got that loosened up, just take the 19 the rest of the way out of the way. Let's see here. So there's that. And when you pull the steering wheel out, everything comes with it except the airbag wires. So just make sure. There you go. So the steering column helps you go the right way. Just a couple of Phillips head screws that are obvious, but there's one down here underneath, which you don't have to worry about coming under here. It'll be super obvious. And on this particular car, it's not there. So to get this bottom part off, I usually open the adjuster, and let me see here, and grab my pick. Where you can't see it, because you don't want to make a mark on this, just separate these two, like right in here. You can see the dust from behind the, where the steering wheel is, and it's the bottom piece that you pull toward you a little bit to get it off. And then up here, this one, you don't have to take it off, it just has to go up. Now, there's nothing you could really do to screw up the position of the actual steering shaft, but just try to keep this centered. Now, to get it off, this one's kind of tough. Right here, it's easier to show you on the new one here. This tab right here is in there. This tab right here is easy to get to, and then it's the same thing on the other side. So what I typically do is the harness is down here. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. It just unplugs like that. These two guys here, they're pretty easy as well. There's a hidden gray one that's down in there. You got to get to the tab. I use a pick. What you just heard click was the top one that we first did. The gray one is easiest with the airbag out of the way. Now this is kind of tough. There's like what looks like it's a clip that you would push. You actually got to slide back. So you put your pick in there, slide it back, and then that just disconnects. So you see what I mean? It's this guy right here. See how that slides back? A little bit more secure, because again, it's an airbag, and that's a little bit more serious than cruise control. So that gray one, you just push with your pick because it's hard to get your thumbnail in there. Now you're all disconnected. Going back to those clips, if you get the top one, actually what we'll do is maybe leave the pick in the top one. There you go. Once you push that one down, you got the top one. The third one is easy, so I say. All right, there you go. So I always personally forget this for how many times I've done this job. This does not mean done. There's actually an extra piece here, which is the steering wheel position sensor. So to get that separated, there is, always look at your other part there. But the gist of the clips are like 1, 2, 3, 4. If we start with this one and just kind of hold it with your thumb so it doesn't snap back in on you, and then go to this one here, you've got most of it. This one here, and I have stabbed myself with this pick, watch out for your own hands. And then the last one, being careful not to break anything. If you did break something in this step, it would probably be your old clock spring, which is trash anyway. And then be mindful of these. Quite obviously, I mean, you'd have to rotate it a lot to screw it up. They're only at 12 and 6. 12 is fat, 6 is skinny. But that just goes on to the new one, like this. Just make sure everything fits in the way that it should. And you should hear, if you're counting, you should hear at least 4 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's good like that. And then turn it around, put it back on. Again, making sure that that you keep everything as straightforward as possible. The new ones come with this guy here, which we're going to snap off in the end. But in case you're using a used clock spring, which I don't recommend, this is like $500 from Toyota. The aftermarket ones from eBay and Amazon, they're more than good enough. You'll get an airbag warning light or a failed button on the steering wheel if it doesn't last. But if you are using a used one, it can only turn so many times before it breaks. that should feel somewhat obvious, but the only time that this orange thing, not what we're going to break off, but inside this window here, you could actually see an orange lever, and that's only in the window when this is in the home position. In our case, we have this locking it, and if we took this off now and screwed up a little bit, it's easy to get it back to the home position. So we're going to put these harnesses back in the order we took them off. So the gray one, which is in the back here, underneath. The airbag, the big thing here is hearing and feeling the click. The airbag one, that's loud, which it should be. And then your two white harnesses that are in the back, click, click. You want to feel those click. I actually had my Tundra, it lost power windows, locks, the speedometer stopped working, the odometer didn't work. I mean, I literally was in a truck that only the engine and transmission worked, all because somebody didn't connect one of those under my dash one time, and it could have cost me a recovery all the way home from Maryland, which is like 6 hours. So very important to make sure harnesses click like that. There's one more white one, which is way out the front. Again, click, you want to hear that click. Before you put the steering wheel back on, you want to put the column back together. So get rid of your little key thing here. This guy, it snaps on to the top of the column, and then this one comes over it like that. And they should, to some degree, snap together. This one I went behind, right like that. So you've got your Phillips screws. Don't forget that third one that's underneath, just behind the handle. That one on this particular car is missing, so we're going to have to get one and add it. Nothing too crazy here. All very straightforward. And just make sure that this is lined straight up. This would be a better time to snap that off. But again, not rocket science. I mean, that's at 12 o'clock. You would have to go around an entire turn to screw it up. And you would know if you did because you wouldn't see the orange inside there. So feed these wires, the airbag wires, through the wheel. Put it on the splines, and it should be lined up on the top. I mean, it would be off substantially again, you know, if the wheel got turned during the process. I've had it happen maybe 2 times, and I've done this job like probably, again, 20, 30 times. So once that's back on, hold everything out of the way, and you're just going to put on your 19 millimeter, which I like, again, to use power tools as much as possible. So that's on. So then you've got one harness here, another harness here, and you're ready to put your airbag back in. So again, when you take it out, you lift it up and towards you, right? So we're going to do the opposite when we put it in. First connecting the ground, which is there, and that should also have a little bit of a click because of that tab that's right. Let me get my pick and show you. That little tab right there is how this locks on. So you want to make sure that you're in all the way and that it can't just pull off. And then these guys here, just make sure that the yellow, it's a tough one-hand job, make sure that the yellow is up. So when you put them in, there we go. So push that, and you should hear a click. Always listen for that click. The worst thing that'll happen if you don't get this part right is you'll get an airbag light and your airbag won't come on. It won't explode in your face. But you still don't want to be messing with any of these things with the car, the battery in. Some people might tell you you can, and yeah, you probably can. You shouldn't, though, by any means. So when you go to put this back on, the airbag back on, your screws, the torque screws, there's one there and one there, and just make sure that those are out of the way. That could give you a little bit of a challenge because they're on, again, those plastic brackets. But once that's back in the home position, try to show you guys what holds it there a little bit better. So the only thing that holds the airbag in, again, is those two things. But it feels, again, when it's hard to describe, but it needs to go in from the bottom first. So once it's in that home position, you should know. It's not popping out on the sides. And then the slight taper at the end of the torque screw should find home. Do this gently. You don't want any torque from this on there until you're sure you're in the right spot. There we go. And then this one here, hold it in the home position. So you've got that. And now you just have to put these guys back on, turn the wheel, lock it in position first. turn the wheel to show you the cruise control one. It's just the opposite of how it came off, so it's by no means rocket science. And the back, the part closer to the dashboard, goes on first. Turn back here, and again the back goes on first, and there you go. So from here, all you have to do is reconnect the battery, and what you're going to want to look for is just to make sure that your airbag light does not stay on. It'll come on when you start the car. That's important, by the way, when you're shopping for a car, because if somebody was to tamper with the airbag system, the only way you would know is if that light was on, right? So if somebody put like black tape over that or disconnected the light, you won't have an airbag light at all. Same as a check engine light. When your key, of course a Prius doesn't have a key, but when you're in the on position but not running, you can see your check engine light and then it turns off. Same thing with the airbag lights. You want to see that airbag light come on and then turn off. And then just take your car for a drive around the block to make sure your steering wheel's perfectly straight. Again, if it's not, don't panic. Just come back to your workspace, put the steering wheel in the position that it is when you're driving perfectly straight, take it off again and turn it to where it is perfectly straight and put it back on. There's probably 36 or 48 or at the very least 24 splines. Splines, by the way, like a gear has teeth, splines are teeth that go the length of a shaft, right? So you've got a hole in your steering wheel that looks like a gear would fit into it. The shaft from the end looks like a gear. Those are called splines. There aren't enough splines to make this off by just a little bit. And even if there was, it wouldn't screw anything up. But the point is, you're going to be either correct or incorrect, not like correct or immeasurably incorrect. It would have to have like 128 splines or something absurd to be off by so little you wouldn't know it right away. So just check to make sure your steering wheel's straight on, and then check all your buttons. I did this job because these buttons here didn't work. These are always the first thing to fail on a Prius clock spring for whatever reason. It's not these over here, or Bluetooth, or cruise control. It's these guys here. So just make sure everything works, and you should be good to go for a long time. So I'm Drew. If this video was helpful, definitely give it a thumbs up. That tells people that you value the content, and it helps show it to other people searching for the same thing. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this, the easy way to fix things. So hopefully it helps, and God bless. Take care.